Coming up on Network Africa, Cameroon's President Paul Biya declared Saturday a day of national mourning for 7 students brutally murdered last weekend. The U.S. expresses concern over inconsistencies in preliminary results of Guinea's presidential election. And as Muslims celebrate Eid al-Maulud, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari urges Nigerians to show love and understanding for fellow citizens. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin today in Cameroon, where President Paul Biya has declared Saturday a day of national mourning for 7 students who were brutally murdered in Kumba in the restive southwest region. The children were killed last Saturday at the Mother Francisca International Academy by gunmen who stormed the school. The government and separatists have been blaming each other for the attack. But in a decree, President Biya instructed the security services to take appropriate measures to bring the perpetrators to justice. On Saturday, flags will also fly at half-mast across the country. Parts of Cameroon have been gripped by unrest since Anglophone groups stepped up their push for independence in 2016. The United States is expressing concern over what it calls inconsistencies in preliminary results in Guinea's presidential election. In a statement, the U.S. Embassy condemned the lack of transparency in vote tabulations and inconsistencies between the announced results and tally sheets results from polling stations. According to preliminary results, Guinea's 82-year-old leader Alpha Condé won a controversial third term in office amid violent protests across the country. The U.S. has urged all parties to peacefully resolve electoral disputes through established institutions. Now, Tanzania's main opposition presidential candidate has said he will not accept the result of Wednesday's election because of voting irregularities. Mr. Tundu Lissu is one of 14 candidates challenging President John Magufuli, whose party has governed the country for decades. However, the Electoral Commission says accusations of voting irregularities are unfounded. Admired by some for his no-nonsense approach, Mr. Magufuli's first term was marred by allegations from rights groups that he was restricting democratic freedoms in Tanzania. And as Somalia prepares for its national elections, a UN top official in the country, together with representatives from some of Somalia's key partners, are urging all leaders to continue to collaborate in preparations for the election. Mr. James Swan also welcomed the role played by the president of Galmudug in helping Somalia set on a path towards the elections.
In our meeting today with the president, we discussed the importance of continuing good relations between the federal government of Somalia and the federal member states. We have been encouraged by the revitalization of the dialogue between the federal government and all of the federal member states. In this respect, I would like to commend, on behalf of our group, I would like to commend President Ahmed Abdi Karie for his leadership in hosting the series of meetings in Dusa Mareb in July and August, leading to the consultative meetings in Mogadishu last month, during which the agreement on the elections model was reached. We urge all of Somalia's leaders to continue to collaborate in this manner with the preparations for the national elections so that they are underpinned by transparency, fairness, and inclusivity. This will include ensuring that the 30% quota for women's representation in the parliamentary elections is achieved, and that the delegate selection committees include diverse representation.
Still talking politics, the Liberian government has announced that President George Weah will not be seeking a third term in office. Now, this comes as the West African country prepares for a referendum on proposed changes to the constitution to reduce the number of years in a presidential term from 6 to 5. The opposition says the constitutional change will allow President Weah to seek to extend his presidency like other regional leaders. But the president's chief of staff, Nathaniel McGill, dismissed this, saying that the president has not yet even finished his first term. President Weah was elected to office in 2018. And as Muslims across the world celebrate the Eid al-Maulud, President Muhammadu Buhari of Nigeria is urging Nigerians to reflect on the virtues of the Holy Prophet by showing love and understanding for fellow citizens. In the president's message to commemorate the birthday of Prophet Muhammad, he's also asking the youths in particular to shun all negative tendencies as manifested in the recent hijacking of peaceful protests to loot and destroy public and private property. Speaking on the COVID-19 pandemic, President Buhari cautions Nigerians not to stretch their luck too far, even though the country has so far managed the problem successfully. He says, looking at the trends in the other countries, we must do all we can to avert the second wave of the pandemic. We must make sure that our cases, which have gone down, do not rise again. Our economy is too fragile to bear another round of lockdown. President Buhari is also asking all citizens to continue to observe the COVID-19 protocols of social distancing, wearing of face masks, and washing of hands. In the aftermath of the EndSARS protests, the Kogi state government is counting its losses. It says this runs into billions of naira after the state's central medical store was looted and equipment vandalized. The State Commissioner for Health, Dr. Saka Audu, toured the facilities with other health and government officials.
Health officials in Kogi State on a tour of a central medical store complex, or what's left of it. Built under the Essential Drugs Program of the state government, it's from here that drugs and hospital equipment are distributed to health centers and general hospitals across the 21 local government areas. Sadly, the facility is not spared in the looting and vandalism carried out in the aftermath of the EndSARS protests. Test kits, drugs, and other pharmaceutical consumables are missing, while machines for magnetic resonance imaging, computer tomography, digital mammography, digital radiography, refrigerators for vaccines, solar power units, laboratory equipment are vandalized. The damage is beyond anything the state government had imagined, the losses running into billions of naira. It's too much to bear for the Commissioner for Health, Dr. Saka Audu, who breaks down in tears while briefing the media on the situation after the inspection.
It is indeed a very unfortunate development that the state will find very difficult to recover from, as we don't have the capacity to provide what have been carted away or vandalized in a short time.
Indeed, it's an emotional briefing for the state health authorities. Even the executive director of the State Primary Healthcare Development Agency, Dr. Abubakar Yakubu, is equally moved to tears as he tries to explain how everything was lost in just 2 hours.
This is the right time for us to come together, to stay together, and to defeat this menace of our society.
The Kogi state government says it will take a miracle for its health sector to recover from the losses. A miracle, it prays, will manifest soon.
Well, in the meantime, looting by angry youths has been described as a war against the People's Commonwealth. This is coming from the governor of Adamawa State, Umaru Fintiri. He made the comparison during a tour to assess the damage to government and private facilities during the looting spree in Yola, the state capital. It follows the expiration of a deadline given to looters to willingly return stolen items or face the wrath of the law.
Following the period of wanton looting in Adamawa State, the governor, Umaru Fintiri, is on this tour to get a feel of the extent of damage to public and private facilities. Carnage is what greets him at every site, whether at the Upper Benue River Basin Development Agency warehouse, the Adamawa State Emergency Management Agency warehouse, or the Coalition Against COVID-19 store. The premises of the Northeast Commodity Association, where tractors meant for the Anchor Borrowers program were housed, was not spared.
Every item you have seen, either fertilizer, herbicide, chemical, including the tractors, all are loans taken to support agricultural production.
A suspected looter denies involvement.
I did not loot the tractor. I was only approached by some people to assist them move it to my vehicle, which I did, and only later realized what happened. So I informed the police. But despite that, I was still arrested.
In the State Primary Healthcare Development Center, cartons of documents are all that's left behind. The headquarters of Customs Service was also broken into. But in all this, there is some good news.
Over 60 tractors have been recovered and returned. They're in the custody of the security agency. And we will continue to monitor till evening to see if they are still complying with the order. Even though reports reaching me, they are complying substantially. And we will, from here, go back, evaluate the situation, and take the best decision in the interest of the state.
Also, hundreds of people have been arrested in connection with the destruction and for violating the state-imposed curfew. At this point, the total loss to the state can only be imagined. The governor is, however, hopeful that more looted goods will be returned.
The police in Zimbabwe have confirmed the arrest of at least 6 people in a high-profile gold smuggling case. This follows the arrest on Monday of Henrietta Rushwire, the head of an artisanal miners association. She was arrested while carrying 6 kilograms of gold in her hand luggage at Harare International Airport as she was traveling to Dubai. Media reports indicate that 2 state security agents have also been detained. Zimbabwe is a major gold producer, and in the past, many smuggling rings have benefited from the protection of powerful politicians. Well, we'll have more on the situation in Zimbabwe, but still to come on the program. An Egyptian designer caters to people with disabilities amid a lack of options in commercial retail stores. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Just a recap on one of our earlier stories from Zimbabwe, where the police have confirmed the arrest of at least 6 people in a high-profile gold smuggling case. We have Nigel Yamutumbu, a Zimbabwean journalist, joining us now for more on this. Thank you, Nigel, for speaking to us on the program. Now, what more can you tell us about the latest arrests of some security officials in this gold smuggling case?
Yes, the case in which Artisanal Miners Association chairperson Henrietta Rushwaya's arrest has taken a fresh dimension, a new twist, whereby the police have now confirmed the arrest of 6 more suspects that have been apprehended in connection with the gold smuggling investigation. What is coming out thus far, and at least also from Henrietta Rushwaya's testimony herself, is that this is part of a syndicate in which it does not necessarily just involve her. It has potential of implicating some security officials, some from within the Central Intelligence, with reports that the entire case is linked to government, some suggesting even the highest office on the land in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, and we understand that the head of the Artisanal Miners Association, Henrietta Rushwaya, she was arrested while carrying 6 kilograms of gold at the international airport. Has she attempted to, defend herself from from these allegations?
Yes, Henrietta is definitely trying to make a case that she did not commit any crime. If anything, she is implicating a registered operator miner who purportedly and reportedly would have the papers in order. And yes, the case is obviously still sub judice and is being investigated to really ascertain her claims on whether her being in possession of the gold was above board, and her intending to export the gold was within the confines of the law, the regulations, and if there was, if at all, any state regularities followed. So yeah, we are really yet to see, but yes, she's defending herself of any wrongdoing.
All right, but with these investigations, like you've said, if she and others arrested are found guilty, what punishment are they likely to face?
Well, I would imagine it would depend insofar as the penalty they will face is concerned, depending on how the prosecuting authority is going to charge them, because for now it is not really clear whether the charge is necessarily about trying to breach the security, whether the charge is around this irregular smuggling and exporting of gold, or whether the charge would also implicate her possession of the gold without following procedure in the first place. So it would largely depend, but generally you're looking at high levels of punishment, also considering the ongoing fight against corruption in the country at the moment.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Nigel Yamutumbu, Zimbabwean journalist. Thank you for those updates. We move on to Algeria, where the president, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has been transferred to Germany for what the state TV says are medical checkups. This follows his admission to hospital in Algeria on Tuesday. Now, the nature of his condition has not been revealed, but there are speculations that the president has been infected with coronavirus. On Saturday, Mr. Tebboune went into 5 days of voluntary self-isolation at the advice of his doctors after many of his aides and government figures tested positive for COVID-19. Women who occupy seats of power need to use their influence to support grassroots women, civil society, and bring their concerns to the decision-making table. That's according to UN Political and Peace-Building Affairs Chief Rosemary DiCarlo, while speaking at the virtual event Beyond the Pandemic, opening the doors to women's meaningful participation. Ms. DiCarlo noted that women make up less than 19% of national parliamentarians in conflict-affected areas.
Those of us who occupy seats of power need to use our influence to support grassroots women's civil society and bring their concerns to the decision-making table. Such efforts are especially critical in the face of global backlash against women's rights, shrinking civic space, and targeted attacks against women leaders and human rights defenders. Today, women make up less than 19% of national parliamentarians in conflict-affected areas. My department has made gender a key principle in providing UN electoral assistance. Just this year, the UN has supported efforts to increase women's electoral participation in Bolivia, Central African Republic, Ethiopia, Kyrgyzstan, and elsewhere. Our efforts need to be underpinned by adequate, predictable, and sustained financing. This includes support to the work of women's civil society on the ground. This is why the UN Peacebuilding Fund has allocated 40% of its investments to gender-responsive initiatives, while we have scaled up the Peacebuilding Fund's Gender and Youth Promotion Initiative from $2.7 million in 2016 to $20.4 million in 2019, and why my department has allocated 17% of its multi-year appeal to women, peace, and security initiatives.
An Egyptian designer is catering to people with disabilities by designing clothes that fit their needs. Now, this is amid a lack of options in commercial retail stores for these special set of people in the society.
When Ashkan Al-Akhbar's friend, who uses a wheelchair, said she dreamed of wearing a dress that did not obstruct her mobility, Al-Haba decided to launch a clothing brand for people with disabilities and those of short stature. Earlier this year, she started Metfasal League, Arabic for Tailored for You, a clothing line that she says is the first of its kind in Egypt.
Our brand is to change our perception of people struggling with disabilities and stop associating them as something related to charity or charity work. We need to change society's mental image of persons living with a disability.
The 43-year-old said after working with various companies on ways to cater for people with disabilities, she had noticed that they were not being served by clothing manufacturers. She's using volunteers to test the clothes, giving them free samples ahead of a planned commercial launch. One volunteer, Ziad Hamdi, struggles with a disability that prevents him from using his hands and fingers easily. Hamdi now has hook and loop fasteners instead of buttons, which he says save him a lot of time and effort.
One example, at first, I couldn't use my hands well while getting dressed. This helped me, and now I get dressed much easier.
Al-Apar hopes the initiative will help change views about people with disabilities and persuade the public to stop associating them with charity.
And that's it on the program for today. Thank you for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.